Could these twin giants have been descendants of the biblical Nephilim? Find out in this episode of douche-coded filler episode documentaries.
In 1903, Delhi, India witnessed the Durbar, a celebration of the British monarch Edward VII's succession. The king at that time was also titled the Emperor of India and was the great-grandfather of the present British monarch named Queen Elizabeth II. The Delhi Durbar was proposed and carried out by the Indian Viceroy at the time, Lord Curzon. The actual plan for the Durbar was for the king to come down to India himself for the coronation rituals. But the king refused, and it seemed like he was not interested at all to come to India. Therefore, Lord Curzon had to stage something as a spectacle for the people of Delhi. And that is when it all began, the Delhi Durbar. The coronation ceremony was planned for about 2 years and commenced on the 29th of December in 1902. It all started with a parade of elephants walking down the streets of Delhi. The guests of this ceremony were popular Indian kings and princes. The Duke of Connaught was given the responsibility for representing the British royal family. After the inauguration processions were over, the actual Delhi Durbar began on the 1st of January, 1903. The Durbar was set on a large plain at the outskirts of Delhi. It was intended to highlight the glory of the British monarchy and the vast British Empire. This assembly also showcased the collection of precious jewels that were rare to be seen in one place. The Indian princes and kings were fascinated by the look of these jewels and gems. Curzon entered the festivities area along with some Indian kings on elephants, but the main spectacle was yet to come. Even the elephants were forged with gold candelabras over their tusks to impress the guests and audience. It was the two giant guards that took away all the attention. The king of Jammu and Kashmir had brought two extremely tall men along with him to the Durbar. These men seemed the tallest of all living humans at the time. The two giants from Kashmir were the spectacle that took all the attention of the crowd. One of the Kashmir giants had a stature approaching 8 feet tall, and the other about 7.5 feet tall. As per sources noted, they were actually twin brothers. The heads and shoulders of these two giants stood high up to create an outstanding impression at the Durbar. These giants were also elite riflemen who dedicated their lives to the service of the king. These Kashmiri brothers were originally from a place named Balkmulkand, and I apologize if I pronounce that incorrectly. The place is still not on records, as the name may have changed over the last century. The brothers headed to the Durbar with spears, maces, matchlocks, and even a few hand grenades. They seemed like they were prepared for any situation to protect their king at all costs. Each of the contingent at the event was headed by one elephant, and the king had his two giant twin bodyguards walking on either side. The international journalists and photographers gathered for the event were also fascinated by these giants. You can imagine the amount of impression that they might have created back in 1903. These giants made the King of Kashmir famous around the globe. The Brisbane Courier printed an article in Australia in February of 1903 that had the title "The Retinue of the Ruler of Kashmir." An article was dedicated to the two giants who were the guardsmen and servicemen of the ruler of Jammu and Kashmir. One of the American travelers and a photographer took slightly more interest in the twins, taking photos with both of these giants. The name of the American traveler was James Rickleton. In the pictures, Rickleton's top line of the head doesn't even approach the chest of the shorter giant amongst the two. The photographers, Rickleton and friend George Rose, headed out to Kashmir to take more pictures of these twin giants. The photo in which the largest giant was compared to the shortest dwarf brought much humor in the newspapers of the time. The king of Jammu and Kashmir brought some devil dancers from Ladakh and artifacts of Kashmir, but his guardsmen were always the center of attention, and you can imagine the amount of threat the enemies would feel with two giants protecting the king. Hence, this was the power and strength statement that the king wanted to showcase in the Durbar, the British representatives definitely took notice of these two massive men. The global incidence rate of gigantism of this sort is less than 0.1,000%. And unlike typical gigantism, these twins did not show evidence of having any sort of mutated body parts or DNA. It is almost as if they were perfectly giant in their proportions. Could they been relatives or descendants of the Nephilim giants spoken of in the Book of Enoch? Leave a comment below if you think that that could be the case, and subscribe if you enjoyed this filler documentary. Stay tuned, guys and gals. The next episode of The Girl in the Pit will premiere as soon as I finish with it. In the meantime, I'm just trying to put up some additional content. If you like what I have to say and you actually made it this far into the video, please, please, please like, share, and subscribe. That gets the Google algorithm to start kicking people over to my videos and gives me an incentive to spend 10 or 12 hours working on each one of these things. It takes so much time to make quality content, and my goal is to bring you as much high quality conspiracy related content as I possibly can. So like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the premiere of episode 2 of The Girl in the Pit.